But first, to wound Trump and win the 2018 midterms, the left exploits tragedy and demonizes the NRA. That's the focus of tonight's angle. Last night at a CNN town hall, Florida Senator Marco Rubio, you might have seen it, walked into the lion's den with a filet mignon in his back pocket.
If I believed that that law would have prevented this from happening, I would support it. But I want to explain to you why it would not.
Senator Rubio, it's hard to look at you and not look down the barrel of an AR-15 and not look at Nicholas Cruz. Can you tell me right now that you will not accept a single donation from the NRA in the future?
That's why I support the things that I have stood for and fought for during my time there.
NRA money? More NRA money?
Rubio was really gutsy to show up and to hear the kids out, but sure wasn't fun. And he quickly became a punching bag for the crowd and the questioners. There was booing, there were jeering, a complete lack of respect by teenagers as well as the adults in the room who frankly should have known better. Dana Lash, the NRA spokeswoman, received her own warm CNN welcome.
Think of how far you all could go as a result of voicing your beliefs. You can shout me down when I'm finished, but let me answer Emma's question. As other media networks would have covered it. That's a huge, wait a second. He should not have been able to purchase a firearm.
Naturally, the media lapped up all this nastiness, and there was basically zero criticism of the hecklers who showed zero respect for the public officials and the spokespeople who actually showed up for a real dialogue, maybe get something positive accomplished. Instead, the people on that stage were walked into the middle of Nero's circus. I was thinking about this. Now, imagine if conservative students in the audience had screamed horrible things at Democrat Senator Bill Nelson when he made this tendentious point.
Did you know that the state of Florida, the governor's office, gave financial incentives for the Colt Corporation to come to Kissimmee to manufacture AR-15s, the same one that wrecked such havoc?
Okay. Well, what Nelson conveniently left out was that despite the financial incentives, Colt never actually moved its AR-15 factory to Florida. And also think about this. What is so horrible about encouraging manufacturers of legal products to come into your state to create jobs? So is a governor who, for instance, offers tax breaks to a distillery responsible for the actions of every drunk driver that happens to drink that beverage? Oh, I think not. Well, CNN was not alone in their completely politicized and biased coverage. The AP, the Washington Post, and many others in the media felt compelled to create Cardgate. Look at that. Yes, Donald Trump held a note card during a White House listening session.
There was a lot made of the notes that he had on a piece of paper, sort of outlining the steps of empathy.
As if the president had to be reminded to empathize.
There was this awkward photo today from the Associated Press showing the notes that the president brought with him to talk to these kids and their families who have been through gun massacres.
Now, this is how desperate the press is. The president holds an unprecedented open forum with students, with teachers, and shooting survivors. And this is something they would have praised Obama to the hilt for. I mean, you've never seen anything like what you saw yesterday. And I should hope that the president walks into an event like this, which is so emotional, everybody's watching, really prepared. And if he had no notes, they would have complained that, oh, Trump just winged it, and he clearly just doesn't care at all about the kids. The anti-gun activists, they have every right to make their pitch to ban weapons, if that's what they really believe. But I'll tell you one thing, they are not entitled to their own facts. They routinely claim, for instance, that the NRA is against background checks. Well, this was the NRA's Wayne LaPierre at CPAC today.
The National Rifle Association originated the National Instant Check System. It was our bill. No one on the prohibited persons list should ever have access to a firearm. No killer, no felon, no drug dealer.
I think my friend Jake Tapper didn't focus on that last night, but nevertheless. The president tweeted his support of the organization today, saying, among other things, the folks who work so hard at the NRA are great people and great American patriots. They love our country and will do the right thing. Well, this sent the lowbrow lefties into paroxysms of outrage because they want our young people to think of the NRA as a reprehensible, bloodthirsty organization. Evil people who are, you know, in the words of one of the kids at CNN, terrorists.
Trump was pushing the NRA line today, I thought, talking about emotional problems, which, because that's the soft, it doesn't deal with guns.
That's the traditional Republican way, and that's the NRA way that the NRA bought. The NRA bought politicians to say that. Done?
Again, I cannot stress this enough. The Democrats and their leftist enablers in the media are positively desperate to distract you from all the good news that's happening around us. Think about this. A new poll out just this week by Gallup tells us that 45% of Americans are satisfied with our standing in the world. That's a 13-year high. And it's also a 13 percentage point increase from just a year ago. Small business confidence is way up. The economy is strong. And so all the Democrats can do in response is to create new boogeymen. So before it was the bogus hysteria over Russian collusion, and now it's the NRA. For a year, they've tried to peddle contempt for President Donald Trump. But today, after all that work by the media and the left, his approval numbers are higher than they were when he was elected. The generic Republican versus Democrat ballot is also tightening. This is incredible. Some of the GOP have the GOP now within 3 points of the Democrats. The Democrats led by double digits just 2 months ago. So I say this, sure, the country still has problems. Yeah, drug addiction, violence in cities like Chicago and Baltimore, the spread of MS-13, and now we know, really know, the need to improve school safety. But generally, things are getting better. They're getting better for more Americans, and this is driving Democrats absolutely bonkers. So much so that they're even willing to exploit the pain of the young Stoneham Douglas High School survivors. Now, I'd like to say that I was surprised by this, but I'm not. Many on the left, elected officials, professional activists, and those who fund them, have been doing this kind of thing for decades. In order to create this socialist utopia that they all envision, they have tried to convince the people, our people in this country, the citizens, to sacrifice their individual rights, their basic freedoms, for the common good. A few more taxes here, a few more regulations there, and now they want to water down the Second Amendment on the false promise that to do so will be an end to all these school killings. We won't have any school killings anymore. But I say we should be very careful here. The administrative state wants to take away guns using tragedies as excuses because they don't want the private individual to have personal power. As Ben Franklin once wrote, those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. And that's the angle.